this like what I think of when I see your cigarette thing is Cruella de Vil, or like I don't know. It feels very Great Gatsby.
That's the only things that I always wanted to get. The only compliments that I want are Cruella de Vil and fucking the Great Gatsby.
Great Gatsby.
I think like that's the two people that I relate to the most. just an annoying piece of shit woman, but with amazing sense of like killing animals to be fabulous.
Yes.
And then
she's the anti-PETA.
Yeah, she's the anti-PETA. And then just the handsome dude that I always wanted to be and have a mansion, but I will never get there. Yeah. And I'm just fantasizing of it, like watching The Great Gatsby. What if you were hot and rich?
Yeah.
Well, that would be fucking amazing. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Lazy Eye podcast. We hadn't done one in ages, and now I'm bringing them back, and I'm bringing some of Berlin's finest to the Lazy Eye headquarters.
I'm the finest.
He's one of the finest.
Finer than Sophia. Take that, Sophia.
Whoopsie.
Shots fired right out of the gate.
Shots fired. What if like this becomes the platform for every comedian to bitch about other comedians?
I would love that.
I would love that.
We need a space for that. Yeah. Thank you for creating the space.
I feel like Pat Chats is like too friendly and comforting for that to happen. I feel that the Cruella de Vil vibe here.
Yes.
We can bring that.
Show up after a show, get me drunk, and I'm like, let's talk some shit.
Honestly, this is like right after I did a show. Let me close the windows and get a little bit.
Yes.
Because I forgot that we're going to have noise.
And I'm going to pour some beer. Yes. Welcome back to the Lazy Eye podcast with your host, Paris, the Lazy Eye, and your guest this week.
I love that you're doing your own
Patty Chats. Follow him on Instagram at Patmore Comedy, on TikTok, YouTube, all of the places. Find him. He's hilarious. He has a small penis, but he's very funny.
Oh, I didn't consider that this would be easy and I wouldn't have to do any heavy lifting because I have the fucking content queen here. By the way, I need to introduce you.
Okay.
I feel like this guest has been created in a lab for the Lazy Eye podcast. It's Patrick, and he is what in Europe we've only heard the son of two lesbians, babes. We bring you the best here.
My parents are super gay.
Super gay.
The gayest.
The gayest. That's so awesome because I feel like I think we know people now in Europe that are doing it, but I don't feel like it's very cinema trope, I think, to Europeans.
Please don't use so many big words around me. I barely graduated.
Barely American.
I'm barely American. I'm barely a human being.
Stop it. Don't go through your act now. This is not that kind of show. But no, yeah, so I mean, like, I don't want to discuss it in a like, everyone in Berlin knows about it, I feel.
All of my material is about my mother's. They're like, hey, you know what's hack? You sharing your experience.
Yeah, but you know, like how comedians go, like, that's 5 minutes of material.
Yes.
If your mothers are gay, if if you use the word mothers, that's like at least an hour there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I've just scratched the surface.
Do you really grow up a Buddhist vegetarian?
Come on.
No, because it's a great joke, but I'm like,
100%. My parents raised me Buddhist vegetarian.
In San Francisco.
I mean, we grew up in a small town north of San Francisco.
Of course.
Very beautiful, Fairfax, California. One of the very scenic location, and family friends of ours ran the Tibetan Buddhist satellite location of the San Francisco Meditation Center.
Oh, that's
and so like
good.
all of these like Buddhist monks and nuns would come and stay at their house, and then they would give like little like guided meditations, and I would go as a child.
Yeah.
And wait for the ice cream truck to come by, and then be like, Mom, can I have that?
The ice cream truck to come outside of the Buddhist temple.
Yeah.
I feel like after last week, where I was talking to a friend of mine who listens to the podcast, there are those people.
People are gonna listen to this.
Yeah.
Well, then follow me on No, I'm just kidding.
Plug. It's plug time before they fucking turn off their Google Chrome. But Sophia like went to this university was called the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied
Yeah, you guys were
Poetics.
acting way too educated for my personal liking. I was like, you're using you're talking about like philosophers and authors, and you're like, throwing out these names, and I'm like,
So many syllables.
guys, you lost me. Go back to talking about choking. All right, that's getting me going.
That's what I can do.
Yeah.
I can follow that.
Yeah.
No, but to me, it's like it's so ridiculous because like it was the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics, and now a San Francisco kid raised by two lesbians, Buddhist vegetarian.
Buddhist vegetarian.
I feel like I'm going like through a tunnel that I'm not sure I want to see what's like at the end of it.
It's a rainbow. You come out of the other end, and it's a rainbow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. So how did you like end up, I don't know, moving to Berlin? Like what's your, because did you stay a bunch in the States and...
Yeah. So I guess I'll just tell you the long version.
Yeah, sure. It's a fucking podcast. We have time.
Yeah. So when I was 25, I was like, like when I discovered, it was 23, 24, I discovered mushrooms. The story starts with mushrooms. But like
20, you grew up Buddhist, like vegetarian, and you didn't know about...
I mean, the funny thing is, I was very anti-drug until I didn't start smoking weed. I mean, the first time I did weed, I was like 18. Did weed? I sound like such a fucking narc. But
I did the weed smoking.
I did the weed. The first time I ever got high, we went to see Pineapple Express midnight showing, and I was a runner. I was like I was a big competitive runner, and my friend in California in 2008, they made it so that you could get your medical marijuana card when you were 18 years old. And so my friend was like a senior in high school, got his medical marijuana card. So he got me a medical grade marijuana cookie.
Holy shit.
And I'd never been high. And I was like, all my friends are smoking weed and going to Pineapple Express. And I was like, I don't want to smoke because I'm a runner, but I'll do this edible. So I eat like half the cookie and I'm like, all right, great, and then they're all high immediately, and I'm like, well, what the fuck, like, and so then I just ate the rest of the cookie.
Oh, no.
And I mean, that was one of the most psychedelic experiences I've ever had. It was like, so I didn't get into drugs until later, but what were we? Oh, you wanted to know how I came to Berlin?
No, because here's why. Because I feel like with all the sort of like Europeans you talk to, like everyone knows Berlin as this sort of like very interesting, artistic, dingy place. I feel like when you talk to like Americans, it's very difficult to relate to what Berlin is now because they just relate it to like Germany, so to me it's always interesting how...
Yeah. So the funny thing is, I never like wanted to live in Europe. I never wanted, like, I was not like called to come to Berlin.
Yeah.
It was none of those things. Now I was aware of Berlin because I was very into like electronic music, festivals, and so I know like, okay, the clubs, the techno, like the whole thing. I knew some DJs that were from here, whatever. And so actually the reason I came is because my partner who whatever. And when I met her, she was trying to decide where she was going to go do her master's degree. And she was like, the best option is to go to this place in Berlin. And she's like, but I've been to Berlin. It's so gross. Like, I don't know if I like it. Blah. And I was like, dude, Berlin is amazing. Like, I think you'll have a fun time in Berlin. Like, you should go. And so she went there, and so I basically met my partner. We were both working at a hostel in Costa Rica.
Fuck yeah.
In the jungle, like way out there. It was one of the coolest experiences, except for the fact that the hostel owner was a psycho. But they mostly are.
I mean,
they're either cool or psychos.
I mean, a hostel owner in the center of the city is a psycho. Jungle of Costa Rica doesn't feel promising.
No, yeah.
Like,
And it was
alter
like
that.
it was his childhood home, and then they had like built it out and turned this thing into a hostel.
Whoa.
But it was sick. Like you could, it was like a 3-hour hike through the jungle to get to the nearest town, and like the groceries came in once a week on a boat, and
Whoa.
you were out there. So anyways, it was like this travel romance, basically. I mean, she wasn't that into it, but I was like, no, this is gonna be a thing.
Yeah.
And
No, you'll see. You'll see.
yeah, no, this is gonna be. And so then at the end of the trip, she went to Berlin, and I moved home, and I just
Did you
could.
stay in San Francisco after that? Or did
Yeah,
you,
I moved back with my parents. This was a phase in my mid-20s where I lived with my parents for a while, and it was actually really great. But
Yeah, if my parents were gay, I would also live with them.
yeah, it was. I had a great time. Living with my moms, it's like you have to play by their rules, which is like you don't leave a dish in the sink
Yeah.
overnight. You don't do that. If you don't want to wash the dish, keep it in your room. They don't want to see it in the morning.
Yeah.
They are in the bathroom at 9 p.m. to get ready for bed, and the bathroom is closed after that point. So, be ready to not
Pee in the sink.
Yeah. The whole thing. I actually peed
Don't
in
leave dishes.
I had a jug.
Wow. Okay. That's intense.
Yeah, no, but they're really great to live with, but I just kind of kept talking to Anya and being like, we should like hang out again. Like this is, you're cool, whatever. And so eventually, I convinced her to come visit me, and then I came and visited her. And when I came here the first time, the plan was I was like, I'll get a job. What I was doing at that point is I was traveling all the time, and then I would get these like work exchanges at hostels, because then you live for no money. So I showed up here and I was like, I'll do a work exchange. And I went around to some hostels, and they're like, oh yeah, like last year they made that illegal. You can't do that anymore.
Fuck.
And so then I just ended up living in her vegay for 3 months. Luckily, her roommates, who are now my very close friends here, all were like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. But yeah, I just kind of moved in, and I fell in love. And now the funny thing is, I love it here, and she wants to leave, and I'm like, well, we could stay. Hear me out. What if we stay?
Yeah. Let's see.
I know you had a few years before I got here, but it's pretty great.
It is pretty great. I think you probably will relate to this 100%, because for the past, 5 years, I'm like, I can be fucking anywhere in the world and have a great time, meet people, do the little niche things that I want to do, and be fucking well off. And then I started stand-up here, and I'm like, I can only be in 3 places. It's so fun, because now I'm going to Athens, and there's one English comedy show once a month. And I'm just thinking of how I'm gonna start my own show in Athens, but I'm not sure if there's enough of a scene to be able to do 2 shows a week or even a weekly show.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's a huge tourist city, right? So
it is.
I mean, that in itself, I feel like should lend itself to
a
comedy show. But I totally understand, and that's my big thing with Anya wants to move to the States, and I'm like, I feel like you really know Americans. I feel like we're gonna get there, and you're gonna be like, you've met some. I've introduced you to my friends, but that's not American. That's not Americans. And then she wants to live somewhere with natural beauty and access to outdoors. That's what gets her here. Is it's if you in the winter you're like, let me get out of the city, and you go to Brandenburg, and it's like, all right, it's a flat, treeless forest. It's not. And so I'm like, where can we find a place where I can do comedy and you can have what you want?
Yeah.
And it's not. And I'm like, so, I mean, New York. They have Central Park is beautiful.
That's me trying to convince people my entire life. They're like, no, I think I'm going to go to bed. But this bar is really graphic. The people tonight are fucking on top of it.
Yeah, it looks good in there. We should try it. One drink. Come on.
Oh my God, fully. Yeah, and also the funny thing is to me, Berlin has been the most nature I've ever been exposed to.
Okay, that's. Is there no nature in Greece? Like, I mean,
So there's nature in Greece. You have to look for it a little bit. But the thing is, like, Athens is just like you go to like a high,
like a viewpoint or
a
something.
viewpoint in the city, and you see the buildings curve with the land. There's like no spot. Maybe there's two green spots, but they're not even parked. They're just rocks with trees hanging where we couldn't build even if we tried.
Yeah.
So we let it be just out of like courtesy. We're
Yeah.
like, okay, fuck this. It's not
Yeah.
useful. Let's leave these 5 trees hanging upside down from a rock and then build the rest. It is a little bit depressing.
Interesting.
Yeah. You get like these just trees in the pedestrian streets that are the size of like maybe one person at a time can fit to walk through, and you have to step on the road a little bit at times as well. And then there's one tree in the middle, and the roots are fucking screaming to get out. It's a so like I'm in Berlin, and like even Goethe Park, I'm like, holy shit, I'm breathing fresh air.
I think it's funny that like the most popular park in Berlin, I would say, I'm not gonna like say it's for sure it's the most popular park in Berlin, but one of the most popular parks in Berlin is just an airport that they did nothing with. They were like, this isn't an airport anymore. Have at it. Like it's not like they could have like rebuilt
Planted.
it and like put some like trails and trees and like landscaped it, and they're like, nah, like just.
And everyone in Berlin like, you know what I'm gonna do today to escape? Lie on hot tarmac. I think that's the best. Like, there's definitely like on the same distance on the other side a lake and trees.
Yeah.
But this hot tarmac that airplanes used to land on seems ideal.
That's the place to go.
Yeah.
That's the spot.
Yeah. I think just people want to see other people roller skate again.
Yes.
I think that's why they go there.
Honestly, I that's why I go there. And I mean, it has every time I go there, I'm like, if I have enough beers, I'm like, am I at a festival right now? Like, is this like? It kind of has the vibe where you're like, is this a festival?
Did you bump into the at some point when even I think the bars were closed as well? It was like it was peak pandemic, but I think it was the second or third time around, so people were less careful and they just wanted to. And every night at Tempelhof, there would be like a bunch of different people with speakers on wheels.
Yes.
And they would start these raves, and then at 9 they would close the park, so like the security would come in. So they would start moving. And start moving with the speaker on wheels. And I remember like there was 3 dudes with a speaker. They had lines on the speaker that were constantly moving because of the bass. And they were trying to catch the line. And I'm like, that's hilarious. And then just like
that's a game show. That's a fucking game show. Can you slowly outwalk the security at Temple while doing a line that's being shaken out?
Welcome to Catch the Line. We have 15 subwoofers in the space. Our audio experts are gonna play techno while you try to catch that line.
What do they win? Being very high.
Being very high. If you win, like what's the
if you win, you have to sit down.
We force you to sit down for 20 minutes and see if you can take it. What's the prize? The prize is that line.
That line.
Only if you can catch it. Ridiculous. But then they would start like walking through like Hasenheide, and just the cops would show up at some point. I remember just like 100 people dancing. Everyone's also trying to get to that line because maybe the 3 everyone's playing hotter than they are. Maybe the 3 dudes will be like, come in to the huddle.
You want to play the game?
And then you would see a siren, and then you just see 100.
It's like The Price is Right with the audience, and they're like, Susie, come on down. You get to play Catch That Line.
Oh my god. A fully like middle class Americanized version of it would be amazing. But then you get like Berlin techno trashy dudes.
I have this, maybe it's not cool to talk about bits. We're talking bits.
Talking bits right now.
But I have this new bit, not that new, but I have this new thing I'm working on about how I'm a basic bitch. And And then like today I was getting like no response, and then I was like, oh, Berlin, you don't like basic bitches, and people were kind of like, yeah. And then I was like, oh, like, but let's be honest, like, I feel like but there are these like techno basic bitches, like these, like, there are like very like a Berghain basic bitch. There is,
Listen, half of the Berghain regulars, if you go to so we're in Coty, there's this gym right across the canal at the like yeah. If you go into that gym, you see half of Berghain the entire week just working out to go look
hot at
Berghain, which is just the like basic bitch level of, like, it's honestly like there's when you first get to Berlin, I think everyone looks cool.
Yeah.
and then you start to meet them.
Then you talk to them.
Yeah. It is tragic because also like you'd think, I mean, okay, I think there's tech house is considered like the most basic dude bro sort of genre. So like tech house
in Europe.
Yeah. No, in the States I'm guessing it's the most like
it's dubstep, bro.
Yeah.
Shout out my boy Skrill. Yo, Skrill, I see you. Drop the bass, bro. I used to love dubstep, by the way. I still love dubstep. Yeah. I don't know. I was literally listening to dubstep today. I'm like, it's my dirty little secret. I was trying to do a joke about it on stage where I was like, Berlin is so progressive, and, I think this is like kind of fucked up to say here, but I like dubstep. But people, I don't know. People didn't like it for whatever reason.
You know what? I think because we forget sometimes the crowds in the Berlin comedy shows are not really Berlin.
And they're also not like club culture Berlin.
No, because the thing
which I think is also something else. Sorry, I just cut you off. But like that's also, I think, when you start to get into the scene, of like oh, you're going, and then you meet somebody and you're like, I mean, a little line at lunch or something. You make something like, and then they're like, what?
What?
You're like,
and that's why I think like I don't know. There's because I got in my head in the beginning of doing stand up because I realized like, oh, these crowds are the same crowds if it was in another European city. Like, this is not a Berlin crowd. Like and I think I've played into it a little bit with like exaggerating a little bit my Berlinness of like partying and or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they've heard of it, but they don't really know it.
Yeah.
So, but it's an interesting thing, but like you forget about it. It's like most of these people are international, working mostly in tech.
Yeah.
And in companies. Like these are office people. Like it's the same crowd you would get.
Doing drugs scares them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you can just say a drug and it's funny. Whether if you get a proper Berlin.
Ketamine has never gotten me ketamine is my best punchline.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Why do you think half my punchlines are ketamine? Yeah. I mean, I live up to those jokes, but you fucking better believe it.
Yeah.
Not some corny asshole.
Sorry, I shouldn't. It's not really a punchline. It's more of a snort line.
Yeah.
All right, hey, come on. All right, we're having fun.
We're having fun here, everybody. Yeah, but no, yeah, it's interesting. I don't even remember what we're talking about, but
we were talking about Berlin crowds are not really like clubby Berlin people.
Yeah, they're not. And then tech house is
tech house is the broy.
Tech house is the broy. Like all the memes in my feed for the techno pages,
which is also in itself though. It's funny to me because it's like the fact that like this subgenre of a subgenre is like a meme of like, oh, this is like trashy people like this. In and of itself is kind of funny and like silly because it's like, how many people don't listen to electronic music, don't listen to techno, don't listen to you know what I mean? And then it's like you get like you refine all the way down to tech house and you're like, those basic bitches.
I know,
it's
it's very funny. It's like because Berlin is like so self-absorbed that like you forget that 90% of the knowledge that you have accrued in the city just doesn't resonate with anyone else anywhere else in the world, and you're like, oh, okay, so I guess like I can only be here for most of my references about art, music, assholes, drugs. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know, but I honestly like right now I don't see myself like living elsewhere, even though like I always was like, oh, I mean I love Berlin, I'll stay here, I'll move somewhere else, But right now, there's something about it where it's like, because I can't think of a place where I can do stand up every night and access that little niche and then also have the most opportunities in experimental art.
Yeah.
Because it's a weird combo, right? It's like, to me, it's very opposite worlds.
Experimental art is weird.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and also not.
Nah.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I love
also,
it.
like,
I love
not interesting at all.
experimental art. What is it?
No, I mean, here's the thing also, like, through doing stand-up, I've realized that most of the stuff that I take seriously in this world are silly. They're just bullshit.
As it should be.
It should be. They're just pretentious and cunty most of the time. And I think also it has liberated me a little bit from the, I don't know, that the head of the type of person that will like correct you when one of your jokes about, because it's not culture. You know what I mean? I would never do that because I've always been a fan of stand, but I had this sort of like twitch of like, these are the things I take seriously, and art, and like they, and now to me everything is a little bit of a joke at the end of the day, and then you can sort of meld it to be a bit more serious and refined, or make it a knock joke, and it just doesn't matter.
But I think I will say, like, to your point about Berlin, I think from my perspective as an outsider, like from the States, you know, it's like, you know, everybody complains like, oh, the city is going to shit. It's getting so expensive. It's so crazy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that is true. But like, where else would you go? You know, because anywhere else, there's not a place where it's more affordable, rent, food, everything, with as much culture. I mean, as you said, you know, there's the music, club culture, comedy, fucking art, like it's everything.
It's insane.
and super international. Like like when I first moved here, one of the main things I fell in love with is like, you know, you're at a dinner party and you're like, holy shit, there's like fucking a dude from Greece, a dude from Iran, a dude from France, me, like some Germans, hopefully not, but no, it's like you know, but like there's, it's like, and that in itself is such a like, I think, good thing for people.
It's so great. The fact that I can just like, I hear Greek somewhere in the back of my ear, and I'm like, okay, don't show any signs. Just try to look chill. No, because like, you come here, like, I haven't even met that many Germans, like properly met. Like, I've probably met more Brazilians than Germans in Berlin. You know what I mean? It's just fascinating to just be. It's that thing, like, be around the table and just meet people from like every continent in one dinner. It's amazing, and it reflects, I don't know, in the whole city. And then like the same, like, you go to exhibitions and they're not exhibitions of Berliners, they're exhibitions of Berlin-based artists, and you have like a Japanese artist and a Latin American art, and like, it just, even like, it reflects on everything. And that's the thing, is that the scene here, the only locality about it is that everyone sort of lives here or is based here, but there's nothing about it that's like, the Athens scene is people from Athens doing art in Athens, presenting it to people from Athens. Here, it's like people that are based in Berlin but can come from anywhere, from the person that owns the space, organizes the event, markets it, the artist, everything is like so mixed up that it just turns out to be like new and different every time.
Well, and that's that, like, there's this like energy to Berlin, right? You know, it's like
Crackly.
It's just like,
It's like, can you show me the energy of Berlin? It's like
it's like that's kind of the energy of Berlin.
It really
it's
is.
like, was that speed? That's the energy of Berlin.
Honestly, like, I've been talking like to people in Greece, and I forget that like people might have gone through their life without doing a line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I forget, like I almost wrote a joke about it, of like being in other places after being in Berlin.
Do you have another beer for me?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll go grab another couple of beers, and we'll keep this train.
I can fill this space. I can fill the air.
Yeah, go for it.
So Paris, first of all, here's the direction the podcast is gonna go. I'm basically like a boomer dad, and Paris is gonna explain experimental art to me because I don't get it. But I find it somehow seductive and attractive, because I'm like, ooh, it's artsy and that's hot. No, I I like drugs, so obviously I like trippy art, and so that's where the direction of the podcast is gonna go.
Drugs and trippy art. I have a bottle of Jägermeister and 2 beers.
Okay, you keep that devil Jaeger away from me.
Do you not want to do like a tiny shot? I mean, I don't drink Jaeger, but a friend of mine brought it. I'm gonna do a shot between beers.
That's not a tiny shot.
That's a tiny shot.
Okay.
Yeah. Come on. Come on.
But I pour it.
Yeah, you pour it. Okay.
That's being in your 30s. You're like, okay, I'll do this, but I'm gonna control the situation.
Only on my terms.
Yeah. All right. I already feel like this is a better episode than Sophia.
Fuck you, Sophia.
Yeah, bitch. Fuck you. All right. Cheers. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's just a bad liquor.
No, I mean it's just I actually, maybe this is something fun we can talk about. I had a phase where I stopped drinking liquor because it was giving me problems.
So you were gonna say like, I thought you were gonna say like prostate problems for some reason. Like I heard probably.
No, they were more like black problems, like I was blacking out a lot.
Oh, I thought like African American problems. The police was
were
getting a little bit.
It was a problem. No, I was when I was
Got
like
alopecia.
yeah. Hey,
Fuck that
okay.
bitch.
This whole podcast is just me being like, I have a bit that I'm working on. No, but
Go for it.
no, I stopped drinking liquor when I was 24 because I was gonna go see I was gonna go to this concert. Actually, it was, maybe you've heard of them because they're like very big now, but it's this electronic duo called Odessa.
Oh yeah. I know.
Yeah, they're like, everybody who has a travel vlog uses their like music for it.
I know. Yeah.
But they came up in Seattle, which is where I was living, and so like I used to get to see them in this like tiny venue, or whatever. And so when their first album came out, I went to the album release like after party, and my friend and I we got drunk beforehand, and then this guy bought me a shot when we showed up there, and I remember I think he was hitting on me, but I was like super drunk, and so he bought like a really like a fancy whiskey, like a sipping whiskey, like a big sipping, and I just took it like a full shot and was just like, peace, thanks. And that's the last thing I remember.
Serves you right for saying peace.
Yeah. I'm a peace guy. I'm like, peace, yo.
Peace.
Deuces.
Deuces.
And then that's the last thing I remember. I don't remember anything from the concert that I paid $30 to go to. And I woke up so hungover the next day, and it was like on a Wednesday night or something, you know? And I woke up so hungover, like 20 minutes after I was supposed to be at work, and I had to just call in and be like, I'm sick. And I was like, I remember lying in my bed and be like, I'm literally taking a sick day because of my drinking. And then I was like, okay, I don't want to stop drinking, but maybe I should stop drinking liquor.
Yeah, but you're seeing it the wrong way. You're taking a sick day because you're drinking.
But let's not also forget that I didn't remember any of the concert that I went to, that I was so excited
but
for.
Concerts are overrated sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes your headspace is more interesting.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I also
No, I'm not a huge I'm a big proponent, I'm not a huge proponent, but here's the thing. I've talked to a lot of I think like Americans and UK people do treat alcohol very differently. Because if you grew up in like the Mediterranean, alcohol is just another little beautiful thing of life. You know, it's like a very like
100%.
Yeah, like you grow up and like your dad teaches you about wine and when to drink it with what food and why. Like you get a sip of wine from when you're 5. Like it's very like it's so normalized that sure some people go very crazy for a couple of years, but normally like also I grew up in restaurants and bars. Like my mom had a bar from when I was 9. So it's very difficult to create this sort of like connection with it that's like toxic because it's like this is our livelihood.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, keep it together because you want to get a good tip, but like, yeah, I mean, we have to enjoy ourselves here.
Yeah, but also like I don't know, like even in like the quarantine is like I realized like I care about alcohol in a way of like I got some super nice wines and beers and I would just have one like glass with my meal, with my food, and I was like super happy. It's more like I don't know, but then like you talk to like I don't know people from the UK and Americans for some reason there's this like I mean also making it illegal till you're 21 is this like criminalization of it that I think it's impossible to then treat it like it's a normal thing in your life.
100%. And yeah, I was totally that way. I like, first of all, as I said, I didn't really party in high school too much. And I would say it wasn't just, oh, are we not recording?
No, we are.
Okay.
I just want to see it.
And like, it wasn't that like I wasn't into drinking. It was just like no one was inviting me. Like I got invited a couple times I drank in high school, but it was like I don't know. I wasn't getting invited to parties or whatever. And so then I got to college and I was like, all right, I'm going wild, you know? And at my college, the drinking culture was such a binge drinking like culture where literally like it exactly what you said, because it was legal. It was like the part of the fun was like procuring the alcohol, like you're getting away with it. And we would literally like, it would be like, dude, we got to black out tonight. Like, that was the goal. Like the goal was to be like, let's get incoherently drunk. And we would do, you know, like these crazy things where it was like, we'd get like a gallon of vodka and then just like 6 people be like, how fast can we drink this? No, you know, which is like, what? How is that fun? Like,
no, that's very tragic.
Tragic is the best way to put it. It is sad.
It really is, because to me it was like I remember like when I was 15 we would do like these parties from when I was like 14, 15 and I remember showing up at parties at 15 with a bottle of like aged rum. And I would grab like limes, mint, and like molasses sugar from the bar and one of those coolers that you put ice in, and I would show up like that and would make like caipirinhas with rum, which is called like caipirissimas, and
we're just like
taking shots, just like this gallon of vodka. And I was like, I would be at that party and I had just like a beautiful aged rum with like hit the limes with the sugar, dancing, and we would have like nice little cocktails and enjoy them. And like, this is a little bit too sour. Let me put a little bit more sugar in it. Yeah, oh, this is like right. 15 years old, just all.
That's classy. That's classy.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to keep referencing your episode with Sophia, but you know, she was very like pro-American, and I want to say I'm on your side. I hate Americans. No, I like America, but what you're saying, I'm like, that's culture.
Okay, I'll say this though. I'm also a fucking like what's it called? When you're like pretending you're talking shit.
Pretentious.
Like, no, I mean that let's not guess too much.
Okay.
Let's stop guessing. No, but my point is like I'm also like bullshitting a little bit, because the reality is most of my references and my entire cultural background comes from the States, meaning like the amount of hours I've spent just like watching stand-up, reading books, everything like all.
America doesn't get its due for its cultural impact. I will say that, like, because of a lot of it is very main. Like, even if you look at like, you know, something very mainstream, like Britney Spears or like the Backstreet Boys or like, you know, fucking blockbuster movies. It's like, that's not like great culture or whatever.
Yeah.
But like anybody our age, you know, if you put Backstreet's
100%.
Back on, everybody's like, all right, you know, it's like.
Of course. I had 2 epiphanies while you were saying that. One is the word I was looking for was hypocrite.
No, I think you were thinking pretentious.
Pretentious. No.
Hypocrite, yeah.
But shit. Oh fuck! I lost my train of thought.
So in a lot of your American American culture,
'cause the other thing is that I think the interesting
we don't get our due.
Yeah, but the interesting part is that the highly influential American people talking about like artists and like people that have really like besides the pop culture shit, like the real gritty stuff that has come out of the States, I think because those artists themselves are a little bit anti-America, what happens is the people that really like adore them because of their intellectuality then also get the same sort of like, yeah, but fuck America as a notion because there's all this shit happening.
Yeah.
But I love this because a lot of the groundbreaking people that have come out of America are very outspoken on this idea of like life and the state and the way the politics work and the way the system works and
Yeah.
the way that the culture is moved.
True.
So I think that is what gives a lot of cunty Europeans this sort of notion of like fuck America, and
Yeah.
then John Oliver can come to the States
Yeah.
and get a fucking deal with HBO to shit on America
Yeah.
for a living.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's actually very good. That's a very good point. It's like, and I also think that is like, you know, now I'm going to be pretentious.
Go for it,
but
babes.
like good, you know, art and cultural takes and all of that stuff come from like kind of being outside of the system and criticizing it and whatever. And you know, America is like so cliche with its all like freedom, like we're free, we're so free, you know. But I will say, you know, I mean, stand up being born in the States, really, right? Like
Fully.
that, all of that comes from there is some freedom where it's like as an artist you can be like, the system is so bullshit. Like the CIA
Yeah.
is overthrowing all these countries. You know,
Oh, yeah.
all this election shit is rigged. You know, these Christians are fucking wild and dumb.
Yeah, and
like,
they even give you your own network on fucking.
yeah,
This is tell the
Yeah.
news. Yeah,
yeah, it's insane.
yeah, that's a that. Yeah, I think there's an aspect of because here's the thing, like where I grew up in, if you're waving the flag of your country, you're like a Nazi. So I think there's part of the arrogance of waving the American flag and pledging allegiance to the flag every morning forever. There's part of that to a lot, because I think like Europeans, for the most part, have this sort of like self-deprecating thing a lot, and this like fuck my country, fuck my president, fuck
Yeah.
the state, fuck whatever, and then to see America being like American flags everywhere, I pledge allegiance to the flag. It just, I think that's what like bums us all out a little bit.
100%. And I think patriotism generally to me is one of the grossest things.
Yeah.
Like it's just like I don't know, it's just weird. It's just such a weird thing. Like, yeah, like we're a thing. And one of my favorite things to tell Europeans is like, I remember in college, like I went to a place that was very like it was a more conservative college.
Yeah.
It was a Catholic college.
Shit.
And like people had, you know, it was, you know, flags, there was a lot of patriotism there. And unironically, I knew multiple people who had these t-shirts that would say like United States of America, back-to-back World War champions. And that was like a fun joke. Everybody's like, yeah, because we fucking won those wars, dude.
Actually, I want to wear that t-shirt. That's so good. That's so fucking funny. But I think that's what's annoying is that honestly, I love all of it, but there needs to be a little bit of sarcasm there. Because if it's all honest, it's dumb.
100%.
Because I would wear that t-shirt for fucking sure.
Oh, I mean,
Back-to-back
it's
World War.
back-to-back World War champions. It's like, it's such an American take on like
Oh.
two complex wars that
That didn't
especially didn't
you.
involve us at all. The only thing we got out of that was like, I mean,
Science.
It was science and like economic supremacy. Like,
Yeah.
we're number one because, yeah. So I don't know. But here's what I was saying in the break that I want you to. I feel like I have my super gay parents,
Yeah.
and I grew up, lesbian, Buddhist,
Yeah.
vegetarian.
What's wrong with me is the question.
No. But I do feel like I have, and that's what I want to try to like attain in my comedy. Also, is it's like it's funny growing up with my exposure to the LGBT. And it was just LGBT at my time.
Back then it was
just
then it stopped at T.
Yeah, it stopped at T. Community and also to feminism.
Yeah.
Is just it's weird. It's funny to me and it's weird to me because it's like it has like changed so much. And where was I going with? Oh, so anyway, sometimes I feel like I'm a boomer a little bit. Like I have boomer energy, and I wanted you to explain to me experimental art. Like you're young, you're hip,
Fuck off.
you're a Berliner. Like just explain to me as a boomer, like experimental art. We could just spend a couple minutes on this.
No, I'll do it in seconds because I love where we're going. I'm like, fuck though. I'm not gonna get pretentious and serious again because I'm having way too much fun to access that part of my brain that will make me a bummer. Okay, here's the idea. I think the basic premise, at least for me, and I think for a lot of people, is this: is we have consumed so much of the same shit forever. Right? Like there's this just line that everyone keeps following of how to create content in art, which has just become a little bit uninspiring in some way, right? It's just this like, okay, if you have $100 million to do your project, yeah, you can do something more experimental in that as a filmmaker, you decide to take the narrative a little bit elsewhere. But it's still this idea of like you have infinite resources to maybe play around with one of the basic pillars of what is a piece of storytelling,
And
right?
like you need to get on TikTok.
Yeah. Basically. I think experimental art is just based on the idea that as an artist and as someone who wants to like create something, I think it's the same thing. Like experimental art is not different to what punk was, to what rock and roll was, to what soul or the blues were. It's just this idea of like, well, we somehow have to express what we're feeling right now. And it's just coming from a generation of people that have been overexposed to a copy paste sort of thing.
But so is experimental art something like that? If you go to art school, they talk about like this is like the current like umbrella or phase of art we're in that's happening contemporarily. Of course, there's like people that aren't doing it, but like this is one of the things that's happening. And the point is to challenge what we consider fine art or whatever.
I think that experimental art in the 60s and 70s was that. Like if you go back to I guess like the neo-dada movement of like
boo. No, I'm kidding. I'm interested.
Yeah. So like for example, there's the famous piece of a toilet in a museum.
Of who?
A toilet.
Oh, a
in museum,
toilet. Okay.
Right. So that came from a long line of art. Like it was like the Fluxus movement in New York, but it started.
Do we know has anyone shit in that toilet? Because if Picasso or something like that would be an interesting art piece to me. Be like, we got Warhol, Picasso. I mean, I don't know. Actually, probably those are I'm messing up my timeline. I don't know. We got Skrillex. He took a dump in there. Like, we got all the greats. We got all the greats. They took a shit in this toilet, and now it's out on
Picasso
display.
and Skrillex both shit in this toilet. Would you like to taste it? Yeah, I think. Okay, just very fast. We'll fucking move from this, but 60s, 70s. We're challenging the status quo as far as it gets.
Okay.
Right now, I think we're a little bit confused because everything is becoming progressive and everything is becoming like
The real progressive art is to challenge progressivism.
Yeah.
Trump 2024 is actually experimental art. Kanye wearing a Make America Great, that's experimental art.
I fully said on stage Trump 2024, by the way.
It's the funniest joke you can make.
I'm probably like in New York, like at fucking 12, like midnight. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck progress, Trump 2024.
Bring him back, dude.
And everyone's just looking at me like this. I'm like, okay, go to bed. fucking retards. Anyway, I'm getting too loosey goosey on this podcast.
We're getting a little loosey goosey.
Little
We're having
loosey-goosey.
fun. You know, come on.
But yeah, I think at this point,
But I do want to just seriously
Yeah.
say for a moment that I think a lot of the policies that Trump enacted would be really beneficial to the world. And I think if we were in this situation now, you know, if he were president, which by the way, I think he still is secretly, you know, no one wants to talk about it, but he is
Yeah.
technically still the president.
Yeah, I don't think Biden ever did anything for that transition.
No, but anyway, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I
So
think at this
now
po-
it's a bit more confusing because
Yeah.
everything's progressive and everything's been doesn't it feel like everything's been challenged? Like after Two Girls One Cup, like how can you challenge things more than that? You know, like
think-
that's the most.
That's the cusp. I think that's where everything started
There's
changing.
nothing more
Yeah,
experimental.
you're like,
than Two
well,
Girls,
there's
One
nothing
Cup.
I can do that will top Two Girls,
Yeah.
One Cup.
like unless you're doing like snuff or something, it's just.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean,
So, but like, what the experimental artists who are big now, like, because I think of, okay, you know, for example, having no knowledge of art or the art world at all, just basically being a bro who loves Skrillex. You know, I know Banksy, you know, he's a street artist, right?
that's not experimental, baby.
Yeah, but like street art, that's different. That's not, but now it's like a gallery thing, right? And so
That's the most boomer thing you've ever said in your entire life. You said street art. That's different.
I mean, it's not a painting, you know.
It's not on a canvas.
It's not on a it's you know.
How can you put it in a museum? Yeah. I think what
Explain it to me like I'm a boomer. I told you at the start.
trying.
I'm a boomer. I'm a 32-year-old boomer, and it all makes me a little bit angry.
I feel that. I mean, I think at the end of the day is that like people approach expression very differently, and I think like some people try to get a story out, right? I want this girl to fall in love with this man and have kids. Okay, I'll make a movie about
Well, that
it.
doesn't feel experimental.
Yeah, no. So my
What
point.
if they're both trans?
Yeah, no. But my point is, let's say you give that story to me or another experimental artist. The idea to me is the only way to make this interesting is find a way that challenges every notion that I myself could have about the story. Meaning, like, how can I turn a guy and a girl falling in love and having a kid into something that to me is interesting? Now, mostly when you're doing, like, I think the idea of experimental art is process over product.
Okay.
Whether the idea of
Which sounds pretentious.
it does. It does.
I just there was the alliteration. That's
It
my
does.
okay.
But,
no,
like,
but
because-
but meaning process over product. Meaning while you're in the process of creating the art, if you come to something and it feels like natural, you need to stop and question that, and then try to find a way to.
Not necessarily. You're not trying to make it incomprehensible, like as a goal. But the idea is, well, everyone is working around this as I need a product that's marketable.
Right.
What I'm interested in is what can my process be so that the product is interesting. Mm-hmm. It's not about like popular and unpopular or this might make too much sense. Let me destroy it and restart. I think it's just I need a process that to me is interesting and doesn't create something that is just purely simplistic or logical. Like it's just enjoying the experience and trying to deconstruct things more in a way that just makes it for you like very like interesting and more gritty and
more real, like trying to be more authentic to the human experience.
I mean those are all trigger words, but
Wait, do you not want like? Because I mean, to me,
no, you do. You want things to be a bit more raw, in a way. You want things to like not. At least what I'm trying to do is like I'm trying to figure out ways to use mediums that already exist in a way that somehow
Are there any mediums that don't exist? You know what I mean? Like that's what I feel like with like music and art. Sometimes I'm like, everything is inspired by something else at this point. Like, are there any mediums that we haven't even reached? For example, here's a good question as a boomer. So I've been to this, the art thing that's next to Sisyphus.
Yeah.
What was it called?
Mm.
Dark something.
I've no idea.
Okay.
Remember. I don't think
But
I've ever been there. By the way.
Okay. So then maybe it's not a good, but like, so it's this immersive art experience with sound and then just, stuff, like there's these balls that like kind of undulate and move in time to this like 360 sound. And it feels psychedelic, like I walked out of there and I was like, I feel high, and which was nice. That's what I've never had that happen from an art experience. So that was what I liked that. But is that experimental?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I think it is. I mean, that's the thing about experimental is right now we're labeling everything experimental that is not an album, a straight up performance, or a movie.
But like,
because we're trying to figure out, because experimental is not a genre, and it's not a wave or a school of thought. It's just an approach that means you're not going through conventional means for what the market is right now, or whatever that means. But
so like if you do a painting, but then you project an image on top of the painting, and then there's also like, I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, what is experimental art? Like, could you just, if I just do a painting of a woman, but I do it in a way that I'm trying to challenge what the idea of a painting of a woman is, or something. I don't know. Like, I'm doing a painting of a woman, and then if you look closer, you realize that she's all made up of tiny ants or something. I don't know. Like, I think is that experimental?
I think experimental has to do with the medium, because, for example, that's why it's also convoluted, because paintings, for example, and drawing is one of the oldest arts ever. Which also means that people have explored most things, which means that whatever you do, however experimental it is, it has been somehow explored. Like, Cubism was experimental. It's not anymore just because it's...
Are you talking about the Nintendo Cube?
Talking about Picasso taking a dump in the toilet.
Okay. With Skrillex. I love Skrillex.
Yeah. Skrillex, a known cubist. But like...
I want to come on your music podcast and I'll just bring all my favorite dubstep songs.
Fuck, it will never be... And then it will never be released. Yeah. No, but I told you not to get me into this because we were laughing a lot, and now I'm too serious.
Okay.
But...
I mean, I feel like I'm... First of all, it's interesting to me to see you try to pretend like it's not pretentious. No, I'm just kidding.
The effort.
but no, I'm generally, that's my thing, is I'm like, I think what is interesting about the arts generally is like, I'm super interested in it, but I'm not educated in it, and I don't want to get educated in it.
Yeah.
But I am interested in it in and of itself, like its effect on me. And actually, maybe you'll resonate with this, but my godfather said to me something that I thought was like the best, like the fucking coolest thing. But he was talking about going to see a painting, like in a museum. Yeah. And I was like, like, why would you go see a painting in a museum, And he was like, it's the same reason that it's better to go see a band live, or to go to the Grand Canyon rather than see a picture of it, or why it's better to go to a comedy club than watch a special on Netflix, and so I'm like, oh yeah, like that to me is like that idea resonates with me. So I'm interested in art generally. I like art, but I'm also like, I don't, I hate gay people. No. I
hate the blacks. I love museums.
Yeah, I love museums. No, but like I did you ever read David Sedaris? This is really meandering now. He's a brilliant comedic writer, and he had this phase where he was doing not experimental art, but what would you call it? Where performance art.
Yeah.
and the way he talks about it is like super interesting, and and so I'm like, what's
I was actually gonna close this art segment
This-
with
art brought to you by Skrillex, the best artist to ever live.
Ever
He's
live.
the Mozart of our
It
generation.
really is. The way he goes "Wah," is like fascinating. But
Check out his Red Rock set on YouTube. It's a good one. It's a banger.
so what I was gonna say, because at the end of the day, I can have some insight, but the reality is those things you just get to experience, and however you feel is something interesting, and as long as you go and experience those things without being too hung up on what is it and why does it exist, and you just let it exist in front of you, and you can think it's shit, you can think it's amazing. Like I've seen a series of like performance art, which to me is experimental art, definitely. Performance art is inherently sometimes an uncomfortable thing to be part of, and that's part of it. Like the idea, for example, like for me, experimental art, the idea of discomfort might be one of the top 3 like themes. Creating discomfort, right? And
Sorry. Like, so here's the thing about like performance art and experimental art. The point is like you're not supposed to enjoy it. It's supposed to make you feel bad. That's how you know it's good art.
wait, discomfort is actually very interesting because discomfort.
Gay. I'm sorry. My parents are gay. I'm allowed to say it.
Can I say something? Like,
yeah.
I know I'm talking about it, but like, if someone was doing that and I was listening, I was gay.
No, but so
to me, it's
but
like-
you're right. Discomfort is interesting because I think for me at least, the biggest growth moments in my life have come from points where I was uncomfortable. I mean, think about like in comedy, bombing, you actually learn more in a way than if you kill, because it's like,
Oh my
holy
God.
shit, that was so uncomfortable.
Yeah, and that's
The audience doesn't learn anything. They're just
Nothing.
like, that was terrible.
yeah. But in performance art, there's this interesting thing of like some of them may have even like a goal of making you uncomfortable, like not making you uncomfortable, just creating this like level of discomfort that's interesting to sit in it, and through that you also learn to like appreciate commitment. Like there's times, because those people are a little bit like stand-ups, where like that's also why I love stand-up, is that it's just a group of people that are willing to go up on stage if there's one person or 1,000 or 10,000, and the goal is the same, and the act of achieving it or not is there and not a lot of times, and it's wonderful to be in that space at its cringiness and at its most hilarious. And it's the same with performance art and experimental art, because you're just like, sometimes you have to take like real fucking risks, the same way that you do in stand-up, and you as a comedian or an artist in the space that another artist is taking that chance, it might work or not work in the room, but there's a level of like respect to the commitment that it takes to take that chance and create something like that. It's very similar to me. Like it's not, even though it's culturally very distant, to me it's very much the same process almost, of just like, how much can I expose myself? Because in comedy you're trying to not take the most conventional route. Like you're not writing jokes in the way that other people have written them. You're trying to create something that's unique, and it's the same thing. I don't want to make a film that's just like Inception. I want to see what can come of my shitty pretentious brain.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing. Like you're trying to talk to an audience of 10 or 100 or 1,000 and do something that's unique to you that can be funny or interesting to them.
Yes.
So it's the same. Experimental art is stand-up, basically.
Yeah.
That's what we...
So what we've come to is, next time I do a joke and it doesn't work, I'm going to be like, that was a performance art piece to make you uncomfortable. Take that home and think about it.
Ruminate on
that. No, it's interesting. I'm interested. I find it interesting. That was the most boomer end to the art segment. I'm like, well, that's interesting. That's interesting. You and your little friends are doing this little art thing.
I told you, I was like, I'm gonna give a 20-second answer because I want to stick with this fun energy, and then I just decided, no, I'm actually gonna kill the energy. And
you didn't kill the energy because I kept it alive. With all my homophobic humor. No, actually, I really genuinely I found that very interesting. I thought it was interesting to hear about, and I don't think I'm gonna go to see performance art because I watch it all the time at open mics.
Turns out I'm covered. No, I think like I might be. Here's the thing.
What was the performance art piece or experimental art piece that's affected you the most in the last year or 2 years?
Okay. The one I remember instantly is like it was probably like 4 months ago, and it was at Loophole, which is one of the best fucking spaces in Berlin. It's like this
Loophole.
It's this.
Tight.
It's very tight. It's this very tight like bar and performance space that feels very like occupation-y, like
okay,
you know, like the type of people that would go to an occupation.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah. But it's actually like a very nice space, and they have a performance space and a bar.
They're actually doing a performance art piece at like pretending to be squatters, but they pay rent.
Yeah. Basically what it is. But so I saw this performance. There's a Spanish woman that has a residency there and does a performance every month and brings other performers with her. And they decided to perform at the space where the bar is and all the people are instead of the performance space and get everyone there.
Interesting.
And everyone was just chilling and like the couch, the chairs, blah, blah, blah. Some were like standing up. And she brought a couple of acts that were amazing. There was like a drummer and a cellist that did an fucking incredible piece. And her cello had like weird like strings of paint on it. And then at the end of the performance, she takes out a can. And as she's playing, she sprays a part of it. And you just realize that at the end of this series of performances, her cello will be a different color. Which wasn't even the performance, but it's just a part of it.
It's a layer
that she keeps like dysmorphing her instrument as she goes through the performances, which is fascinating to me. And it's like using drums and a cello, which are very traditional instruments. Yeah,
calling it fascinating is pretentious.
It is
because I'm like, that sounds cool, bro. That's like really tight like, because like every time at the end it's like a different thing. So like every performance is different because every time is like different, and that's like cool.
That's so whack.
It's fascinating
that
it's a fascinating layer to her performance that every performance it's a really great metaphor for the fact that art only lives once for the audience that is there. And so she's marking it with the color of the paint so that you know that you have watched this one performance that no one else will experience. And that is such a great metaphor for life, you know, and what it means to be human.
I hate myself. That's why I've been struggling to, you know, like how every comedian is.
But like, I mean, did you see how quick I went? Clearly, I also am like of this world to be a, you know.
Yeah, but my point is, you know, like every comedian talks about like, until I hang out with other comedians, like I didn't really, and like just being with other comedians. And then I started doing stand up, and I'm like, I already had that with my fucked up friends. Yeah, you know, like I never felt like I always had my fucked up friends. But then I started comedy, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll start hanging out with comedians. And then I realized like I'm not their cup of tea. Like, you know what? Like
you're my cup of tea.
Thank you, baby. I appreciate that because like I feel a little bit like, yeah, like the comedians like me, but I feel like, yeah, but like fuck that, like fuck that guy. He's gonna bomb us all out because like we can. I don't know. I feel a tiny bit excluded from the like. You know, not everyone probably wants to hang out with me in the comedy scene.
Yeah, but I mean, that's also just everybody in the comedy scene in general.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I felt that way. I still feel that way a lot of times. And I'll say there's a few comedians that I'm like, I want to hang out with you, Rob. But
I want to hang out with you, Rob, too. And I keep being like so nice, like gay nice to you, and you keep like shoving me out the way, and I don't think it's nice, Robbie. Okay.
Yeah. Come on, Rob. Be nice.
Come
Play
on.
nice.
I was the first person that hugged you when you won at the competition that Patrick lost. Okay.
Yeah, and that was. Thanks for bringing that up, Paris. No, it's.
Listen, we spent the last 30 minutes capitalizing on how pretentious I am.
So now we can talk about my bad performance.
Yeah, you can take it.
But to your point, I feel like, look, there's some comedians I really like, but there's also a lot of like bullshit and like this hanging out thing and whatever.
No, fuck it, because here's the thing. Like when I started doing stand up in Berlin, I realized like, I mean, none of these comedians are a quarter as interesting as my friends. Meaning like they're all just like bummy straight dudes that talk about pussy. I'm like, I'm not interested in that. I mean, now I feel very differently because I've met a bunch of those people more, and like it's lovely. It's a sort of community that's just very difficult to get outside of stand-up. It has nothing to do with my friends, and obviously like, but there's also an aspect of like the shit that can fly.
That's 100 for me. Like the thing is with them is it's like with my friends who I think are generally, like they know me. And so it's like what I get a thrill out of, and I think it mimics my relationship with my mothers, is it's like I like saying fucked up shit, and they're like kind of aghast at what I said, but they know me as like a good person, so they kind of like, they're like, oh my god, don't say that. And what I like about hanging out with the comedians is like, I'm aghast at what they're saying.
Oh yeah,
and I'm like,
you're the most vanilla person there, and you're like, wow, that's a turn of events.
Yeah, exactly. I thought I was problematic, but
but turns out I'm actually quite chill.
Yeah, it turns out I'm well adjusted.
Yeah, isn't it great? Also, I don't know, has this happened to you where there's certain comedians where you're hilarious around, and certain comedians where you cannot be funny around?
Yeah, 100%.
With Rob, when Rob is around, there's nothing funny that can come out of my mouth for some reason. And then I think it might be men. It might be I don't know, for some reason, like there's 10 comedians that have been around and I felt hilarious in the hanging out sort of thing where everyone's laughing and I'm saying ridiculous shit. And then I'm hanging out with like the dudes and like Rob is there and I'm always like, I want Rob to like me.
I know. I agree, and I think one of the things I don't like with the comedian hang situation sometimes is that it's like it does become a bit of a like, hey, like let's all like where it feels like this, like we're all trying to be funny, but I think when you can get like past that or whatever, and that's also I think a cool thing about the podcasting. It's like the different people I've had on the podcast, on my podcast, Pat Chats, Wednesday, YouTube, Pat Moore
every Wednesday.
Comedy, youtube.com/Pat Moore Comedy.
I'll add
at Instagram, Pat Moore Comedy. But it is like, it's a nice chance to like, just like talk to people and be like, oh, what's up with you? Like when, since we've talking about him so much, like Rob came on. And first of all, it was not a funny podcast. My fault as the host. Not nearly as funny as this. But like we talked to like, I learned all about these like crazy mental health things that he dealt with, and like he was an MMA fighter.
Fuck.
And
we lost
oh shit! And your cigarette. We lost your cigarette.
We lost my cigarette and my camera.
Oh shit! Where is your cigarette now? Did it go under the couch?
Fucking hell. Okay, taking a slight break here.
Welcome back to the outro of the Lazy Eye podcast with your host, Paris the Lazy Eye. It jumps all around when he does oral sex. That's one of his bits. I'm Patrick. I'm the guest on tonight's show. Pat Chats every Wednesday, youtube.com/PatMoreComedy. I fart in public all the time.
Hey everybody, and it has been an amazing season of NFL football here, and
Sports. I love soccer. This is the outro.
This is the outro. This is where we got drunk, battery run out, we charged the camera, we probably talked shit for half an hour.
We kept drinking, even though the camera wasn't rolling.
Yeah.
But we want you to know we sat in silence the whole time because we didn't want you guys to miss anything. We're like, save it for the podcast. Save it for the podcast. So we just, in silence.
In silence. Half an hour, and now it's all like marinated and shit.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
It's going to come out.
I'm like ready to just like, I'm ready to go.
Ready to ruin careers.
Yeah. Was the Holocaust even real? No. I'm kidding.
I love that I'll never have a career that can be destroyed. I love that just like all my life decisions have led me to a point of like, there's nothing you can take away from me because there's nothing here really, which is a fun place to be. I'll be honest.
I agree with you. I feel like if I end up working an office job someday, I'm like, oh, so I should kill myself.
Turns out my therapist was right.
Yeah. Turns out it's right. I should end it all, actually. It's never the answer, but sometimes.
Sometimes it is. That's one of my favorite bits of all time is Doug Stanhope. I don't even remember what was the... Because he just adds it as a tag. But it's his, like... He uses it as an analogy. So he says something and he's like, that's like so bad. And he equates it to, I don't remember what it even was, but I remember that he equates it to, that's like your therapist not only telling you that the voices in your head are real, but they're accurate as well. Which to me is the best fucking analogy. Like, you don't even have to remember what the bit was because he equates it to something. But to me, just like the analogy of like, not only are they real, they're accurate as well.
They're right.
Yeah.
You are a piece of shit.
What you're hearing is correct.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, what do we do about this? I mean, here's the thing: I don't know how long the battery's gonna.
We're gonna take it until it dies. The end of the podcast is gonna be abrupt. I told Paris, I was like, I'll do 75 more minutes. Let's make this a 7-hour podcast.
It's 1:30 a.m. And I was
I told my wife, I'm out tonight. I'm working. I'm working right now.
Yeah. We're creating content here.
Yeah.
But no, my point was
the content isn't gonna create itself.
Nah. But my point was like, I came back to the room and I'm like, sorry, buddy, like I'll charge your camera for like 5 minutes. We'll do an outro and we'll get out of here. He's like, I'm ready to do 45 minutes or 75, whatever. And I'm like, okay, we're dealing with a baller here.
Yeah,
he's a baller.
I'm not a baller. I'm just a narcissist.
But you want me to talk into a microphone about me?
Yeah.
I have all the time in the world.
Why is this so much better now that the camera is rolling?
Yeah, we didn't discuss like this 5 minutes ago.
But what we want to say is that this is the outro. So eventually the camera's just going to cut out and that's going to feel abrupt. But we warned you now.
Yeah, you know. Now you know.
Now you know. So what do you feel like we haven't covered that you wanted to cover? Let me host your podcast for you.
The idea that you think that I came into this with things that I want to cover is so lovely.
You didn't prepare for me?
No.
Oh, I'm hurt. I'm honestly hurt.
To be fair, I haven't prepared for anyone, and I'll actually give you a compliment. I have in 2 different notebooks, Lazy Eye Podcast with Patrick, ideas to talk about because I was like, I want to prepare. But even when I tried to prepare, I was...
Oh my God.
But then the only...
Oh my God, I feel so special.
No, but it's the worst because in both notebooks...
But you're like, but I didn't do it right.
I didn't because in both...
Like, your parents are gay? Question mark.
Both notebooks I wrote, of course, lesbian parents. And then I'm like, okay, let's think of other shit that we want to cover. And they just stopped and started doing something else. So I have 2 different notebooks that have Lazy Eye Podcast with Patrick, lesbian mothers. Yeah, that's it.
Well, that is kind of the beginning and end of me also, if I'm being honest. Here's I haven't told this story before. You know that my mom's helped me cheat my way to graduating college.
Fuck yes. Give it to me.
So, senior year of college, I'm very depressed, clinically depressed, suicidal thoughts, the whole 9 yards. I'm doing it. I'm living my worst life. And so, and I was having a total melt. I was always a good student, and then I was just had a total here's the crazy thing is I always was like, you have to go to class, you have to do the assignments. And then I just stopped going to class and doing the assignments, and I was like, the world doesn't end. Nothing happens. Like, it's just, that's the thing. And so I just was not going to class. I wasn't doing, so I started failing all my classes. And then, my parents kind of figure out like, oh, you're in trouble. They're like, you need to get in therapy. And they're like, and I'm like, and I tell them, I was like, I don't think I can do school right now. Like, I'm just, I can't do it. Like, I'm barely surviving right now. And they're like, we don't think it's a good idea for you to stay for another year in Spokane, Washington.
Spokane, Jesus.
Yeah, it's a place. And I'll be honest, they were right. I needed to get out of there.
So wait, before you give me the route, like outside of San Francisco,
So
Spokane right away.
So yeah, so I'm 18 and I wanted to go to state school in California.
Yeah.
Big school, not go to class. I was looking at San Diego State and San Jose State, and my parents are like, you should go to this Jesuit Catholic university in Eastern Washington called Gonzaga. I know. Their thinking was, and here's the thing, they were right. They're like,
wait, did you say Gonzaga?
Gonzaga.
Okay, because that was like a big.
It's a big
NCAA
basketball.
Yeah. See, I know my American
Yeah,
shit.
look at you. Look at you being all hetero.
Yeah, it's like Gonzaga, Duke, Kentucky.
Wow. Oh my God! Look at Paris over here, knowing his March Madness.
Yes.
So they sent me there, and it was actually, they were right. Like, going to a small school was better for me. Like, I think it was a better social environment. I always think
small school doesn't equate to Catholic school in Spokane.
Yes, I will. Here's the thing. I think it was a good place. I sometimes I wish I had gone to like an art school.
Have you heard of the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics?
I feel like that would have been a good place for me, but I would have become just like a full, like, I don't know what would have happened to me.
You would have moved to Portland afterwards.
Yeah, I would be in Antifa.
Just drum circles till I die.
Yeah, I would be like throwing bricks through Nike store windows or like leading guided meditations. I don't know.
I feel like that's
both.
It really does happen that it's both. Yeah.
Yeah. So they sent me to this Catholic school. It was a good choice, but anyways, so it's my senior year, and here's the other good thing about it was, I had never really met like real conservatives or like homophobes or racists, and I got to meet all of those in Spokane. So that was a good learning experience for me. It broadened my horizons.
Actually, I will agree with you, because I remember working in an island where like a bunch of the people of the island were just straight up, like in the early 20s, but still managed to be very homophobic and conservative.
Yeah.
And my discussions with them, because I engaged with them for hours, because also there was nothing else to do on that island, but there was something about, because when you're in a bubble, everything's so lovely, and
of
then
course,
when you start those conversations, it's actually like it's a fun growing thing of, oh, there's a way to talk to these people, but also those people really exist very close around me.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I love, one of my favorite things, I mean, I had some very negative experiences with people who are homophobic, but
no.
Yeah, I know, it's wild. It's hard to believe.
Now you're spreading hate. Stop it.
But one of my favorite things was that I would become friends with these guys who are like very, hetero, like dudes, basketball bros, whatever. Went to Catholic school all their life. But they became friends with me. They really liked me. And then at some point there would be the big reveal. Like, like I'd pull out the flag and, and that, like, watching them try to grapple with like, I like you. You're so cool. Like, I'm like, you're my friend. That sounded very egotistical, but like, not like you're so, but you know what I mean? Like,
you're like so like amazing.
Yeah.
That I cannot really grasp this right now.
But like, you know what I mean? It's like, it rocked them. And I think that was actually beneficial for everybody involved,
Yeah, for sure. I think there's, honestly, I feel like the most, because I feel like people that are very like hard into their identities, I don't think they have the time or energy to educate people on top of the shit that they have to go through. I think the people that are the best as a caveat to like
Our cisgendered white man.
yeah, but honestly, like because those motherfuckers relate to us
Yeah.
and we can be pals and talk about fucking football or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we can give them a half an hour lecture.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
On why-
I agree with you. And I think for me, the biggest thing I learned from that experience was what's a wild or interesting thing to realize is that like you meet someone with beliefs that you're like, that is super fucked up, but you're like, but you're still a good guy. You know what I mean? Like you have a bunch of like terrible ideas, and you know, if I just read the cover letter, I'd be like, you're a bigot. I have nothing. I don't want anything to do with you. But I know you. Like you're a nice dude, and you've helped me out in like moments of need, and you just have bad ideas. And I think that's something that I've taken is it's like, and I understand, you know, if you suffer with a certain level of oppression, there's going to be a certain level of anger that comes with that. But my biggest takeaway from that experience was just like, oh, coming at people with like, if you start at like, what you think makes you a piece of shit, that's not going to change anybody's mind.
Never.
You know?
But that's the point is that like, obviously the further you are from society accepting you, the less patient you are about ignorance.
Yeah.
So to me is like I feel a little bit in the middle in a way of I haven't really experienced.
You're not full gay.
Yeah, I'm not like full gay.
Sorry.
Which no, but
I want to just say for the record on this podcast, I am not actually homophobic. I'm just trying to be funny and I'm drunk.
yeah, I mean, you don't.
Paris wouldn't invite me on the Lazy Eye podcast.
Yeah, you don't have to say that. I think people know, and if they don't, unsubscribe right now, and I'll lose one out of the 40 subscribers that I have. It's a big blow.
But the other 39, come on over to youtube.com/PatMoreComedy. Hit that subscribe button.
No, yeah, I think it really is that like the people in the middle sort of function as the caveat to both worlds, because if you don't have trauma and real oppression, then you do have the patience for ignorance a little bit more than the people that their life depends on it more. So to me, it's a fun place to be because I think I can relate with both sides a little bit, with one side a bit more, obviously, but like I can relate to the ignorant straight dude because I've been one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like I've met so many like kind people that just think that gay people are an error, and you're like, oh, it doesn't mean like this person is one of the sweetest people I've met, but they're like his environment has made him just to spew things that he doesn't really understand even.
Yeah. But I will and maybe you, I don't know, you can relate to this or not, but one thing, like I totally agree. But one thing that fucked me up is, and Grant, when I was in college, I feel like from the age of starting around 12 to about 22 or 23, I went through this phase where I was like I went all in on like hetero bro culture. I was like, this is like, I have bro tank tops. I'm all the things. Like, I love the sports. I love all of, I'm like, this is me. This is like, I'm gonna fit in like, I don't care who my parents are. I'm gonna fucking be, normal. And something that fucked me up with doing that though, is that like, I would have these experiences sometimes where it's like people conspiratorially, like kind of being like, these fucking, can you believe these gays? And like that we're in on it together. And that sometimes that fucked me up more than the people who were just like overtly like, oh, like I don't like gay, like I don't like gay people, because it's like, it was like they thought like, oh, I'm part of their thing. It's like, and that's an experience that I think if you're very like out, you're presenting in a certain way, or, if you're like a minority, for example, it's like you suffer this oppression, but it's just like, it is on the as a person of color, for example, it's like you never have someone be like, fucking immigrants, right? You know what I mean? Like it's like they already
You never
have,
get to go undercover.
yeah, you never
Because-
get to be like, wait, like
Yeah, that's. I mean, I never really experienced that because I think from the get go, from like elementary school, everyone knew my mom had a bar,
yeah,
and I talked very openly about like that all of my like surroundings or like gay people
Yeah.
and defend. So it was like, I don't know. I feel like I always was even like growing up very like straight in my head and surroundings and stuff. I think like I had a very compact ideology around those things that was very also apparent to the people around
Yeah.
me. So even my straight dude friends wouldn't dare to do
Yeah.
something like that, but also they didn't think like that.
Which I would say, I think my experience was similar when I was like, growing up. It wasn't until I went away, like when you go to college, it's this weird thing where it's like everybody has this like kind of clean slate, fresh start. No one knows you,
Yeah.
whatever. And for me, I took it as like, I didn't love who I was in high school, and I was like, oh, great. Like, I could use a fresh start because people don't like me. Not really. That's a dramatization
Yeah.
as a narcissist, but like, it's yeah. So I never ran into it until I came into this situation where it was like no one knew me, and it also became a thing for me where it was like, if you're 18 or 19, like no one talks about their parents. Who gives a shit about your parents?
Yeah.
But then it started to become this thing where I was like, I had this anxiety where I'm like, I feel like I'm
Obstructing important information.
yeah, like I'm like holding
to
back this thing that's kind of
investigation.
big, because it's like it's not coming up. And when I was 22, my closer, I had this bit, which is true, about when I was in college. I was super concerned about like how am I going to tell the guys on the cross country team that I was with, like this distance running team that I was with, like that my parents are gay. And one day we were at the cafeteria and someone made a oh, I fucked your mom last night joke. And the way I told them was I was like, oh
Which
yeah,
one?
which mom? Because my parents are gay. Which is that's such an insane way to like come out as having two moms.
I feel fucking-
Which mom did you fuck? Because I have two.
I got you, bro.
Yeah. Boom. Roasted. By the way, please still accept me.
Oh, yeah. That's fascinating because I think because in Greece, all the good universities, and that's not true, but like the university that everyone wants to go is in Athens. So if you grow up in Athens, you get to university, you stay in Athens.
Yeah.
Like there's not this thing of I'm going to university now.
You don't
so-
leave. Yeah.
Yeah, because Athens is like fucking, I don't know, half of like a third of California or something.
Yeah.
So you're like Greece is like a third of California, and then there's another city, maybe two more that have good universities, but it's second, third, like it's like your 10th option.
Yeah.
Like you first send to like 10 universities in Athens, and then you start going
to-
outside of
yeah.
Athens. So it's also a lot of like you don't get to have the experience of now I'm gonna embark on this. You just stay, and that's why fucking Greek people stay with their moms till they're
Yeah.
40, because you never get to go anywhere outside of your neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I don't know. So I think I stayed. So I think that's why it took me to moving to Berlin to have more radical changes in my life and how I present myself, is because I was in the same school from when I was 6 till I was 18. I had elementary school to high school, so I went to the same building.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
The whole through. Yeah.
So I was like around the same neighborhoods, always like changing houses every other year, but still in the same neighborhoods.
Yeah.
'Cause
Same
we're like-
kids.
Yeah, same kids my entire life, same bar, same people. So it's like this thing of it's very difficult to evolve radically when it's the exact same petri dish that's kind of cultivated
Totally.
you.
Yeah.
So I think also like it was happening, but just very slowly, because you just have to. It's difficult to make whether like I moved here, I was like Okay, let me put on
You're
some
like,
makeup.
I can suck a dick.
Yeah, let me put on some makeup, wear a dress, suck a dick, do some stand-up,
Yeah.
experimental art. Like,
what was the name of our game show where you're trying to do the line off of
catch that
catch
line.
that line? You're like, let me catch that line. You're like, I caught them all.
forgot about our game
I
show.
went full Pokemon. I caught all the lines.
Oh my god. Okay,
Um,
what if like okay, I'm coming back from like Greece probably like September, like October, and I think I want to start my own show in Berlin
Yeah,
at some point. What
I'm
if,
here for it.
What if we like start a show together and we just call it Catch That Line?
Yeah, I'm so here for it. I love it.
Yeah.
It's my hand wasn't so here. Okay.
Yes.
My hand was sweaty, so I had to wipe it off on my jean.
Because like the reality is like I also want to. Here's the thing. I am very self-aware of the fact that I don't want to start a show with people in Berlin thinking I'm an open micer starting his own show,
Why?
which is still gonna happen in October. But
Why? Why is that? Like that's what every open micer does.
I know, but there's part of me.
That's part of the process, right?
It is. It is, but I'm also like happy with like I don't want the comedians I like and I'm around all the time to think I'm like, oh, yet another fucking open micer started their own show. But I mean, I'm going to Athens and I'm going to start my own show this summer, which I think is going to be good practice.
Yeah, hell yeah. And
And-
also, fuck those comedians.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit
Yeah,
about those
because
comedians.
they're still going to ask for a spot in the discussion.
100%. They're gonna ask for a spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if this is going to be part of the podcast, but okay, where will we
This
do
is
it?
this is the okay. This is the outro. First of all,
Yeah,
and
this
I
is
was
the outro.
so I'll finish telling you about the fact that my parents helped me cheat my way through college.
Yes, and then we're going to figure out our show and we can even
Yes.
turn off the shit. Yeah.
So I was super depressed. I was failing. And my parents were like, we think you should get out of here. Like we think you staying an extra year to finish your degree is a bad idea. Which might have been partly financial. I mean, I was accruing most of the debt, to be fair, but you know, they were
Yeah.
involved. And
Another reason I love America is because you can have like $150,000 of debt for going to a school that you never really wanted to go to.
100% for a degree I don't use. I do manual labor on a fishing boat now.
What was the degree, by the way?
Broadcasting and electronic media. So I was
You're using
king
that.
of content, baby.
You're using that shit. Don't be.
I'm a content queen.
You are.
Yeah. No, there was stuff in there that
Is the vlog coming out, by the way?
if I finish editing it, because it's been 3 weeks in a row now that I did a little bit of work on it, and then Wednesday came and passed, and I'm like, all right, gotta put something else out because I didn't get it done.
Yeah, come on. You put out the promo for it. You should put the.
Yeah, next Wednesday it's gonna come out. I'm gonna do a vlog. But so my moms were like, we think like I was like, I was telling them about the situation. I was like, I don't know if I can do this, and they're
By the
like,
way, my mom sounds like very like ghetto, like my mom's, but like singular. But when like
my mom's is like,
mom's is like.
but they're like, okay, what do you need help? Like what? Let us help you. And so it wasn't for all my classes, but there was a couple of classes that I emailed them the syllabus and like the assignments, and they like did the reading and like wrote the full papers for me, and I turned them in as my own.
Holy shit!
And like, and the whole thing, and the funny thing is, so they did that for me in like 3 classes, and then I had this one broadcasting class. It was like an independent study, and I was supposed to be doing something in it, and I just never did anything the whole semester. And so my mom's like cheated my way through 3 classes, and then it came to the end of the year, and I was like, I'm still not going to graduate because I didn't do anything for this independent study. And I had to just go to the teacher, and I was like, I've been severely depressed. I have nothing to show you. Can you just give me a pity D? Like, I just need a D to be able to graduate. Like, if you don't fail me, I can graduate. And he gave me a C minus.
What a
Professor Dan.
Sweetheart.
Professor Dan, I love you, dude. And I messaged him a few years ago, and I was like, I want you to know that really like changed the course of my life. Like, that was a huge I needed that.
That's so fucking sweet.
So basically all the adults in my life were like, we need to get you out of this thing. But also essentially I did not graduate college. I essentially dropped out and the adults in my life were like, hold my beer.
Let me get plow through this shit. And
Yeah. So yeah.
Fun.
So that's my story of my parents helping me cheat through college.
Thank you for listening, babes. This was so much fucking fun. Podcast after shows is actually the best.
Podcast after shows, we've had at least 5 beers.
At least.
At least 5 beers. And I want to say thank you so much for having me on the Lazy Eye podcast. I'm very happy to be here.
Fucking absolute pleasure.
It was a lovely outro. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If I were to tell you anything, if I had any words of wisdom for you, I would just say follow at Patmore Comedy on Instagram, youtube.com/PatmoreComedy. Plug. Content, baby.
Content, baby. I feel like we're the 2 people in Berlin competing for the crown of content queen, and we're gonna see. I mean, you have more production value, and I think I have more cum.
I feel like you have more experimental art.
Yeah. I have a broader audience in the Berlin spectrum, but yeah, we'll see who comes on top, dude. We'll see. Or we join forces and we become a superpower.
I don't care who comes on top, who comes on bottom, as long as we both come. I'm happy.
That's all I care about. Show me all that cum. Okay, babes. This was fun.
Hey, bitches.
Hey, bitches. Take it
Don't
easy.
forget to first of all, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed to Paris's channel, what are you doing with your life? Like, hit subscribe right now, or just go kill yourself. Like,
Exactly.
that's my opinion. And also like the video, get in the comments. I mean, just like grow up and just fucking get in the comments.
Bye, bitches.